Do you have any sweet potatoes left over from your harvest last fall? Well, if you do, you can use those potatoes as stock potatoes to start your plants for this coming growing season. And what you need to have is some good large sweet potatoes. And from these potatoes, with the method that we're going to show you, you can grow some slips, which are actually the plants that you would start your potatoes with this year. Now, if you look at the ones I've got here, and you'll remember last fall when we dug ours up, you'll know that we didn't get these from Oklahoma Gardening. These are courtesy of Dr. Jim Moats from his research he's doing at Bigsby. But these are great potatoes to use as your stock potatoes. If you look them over, you'll notice that we have a couple here that are shriveled up, and those really won't make good potatoes to start because chances are they are going to deteriorate or rot in our sand bed. Commercially, they will actually treat their potatoes and keep them warm during the time that they're going to plant them, and also treat them with fungicides so that they won't rot in the sand mix. However, we're not going to treat ours because we don't really need that many, and again, we've selected some that are really nice and firm. Now, there are a couple of methods that you can use. You can actually start your sweet potato slips out on the ground just by getting some well-drained, loose soil that you can heat up. And you could cover it with some plastic, put in some cow manure to generate some heat. But commercially, they do it with hot beds, and they will use an electric source or a heat source under the bed to generate heat. But what we're going to use is get a little bit more mileage out of our coal frame that we had over in our herb bed, and we put it over in an area that's out of the way. We've got good drainage here, and we've stuck it down in the ground just a couple of inches and filled part of it with sand. We've got our opening again and our slant on the south side so we can trap as much heat as we need to. And we want to make sure that our temperature is around 80 degrees when you try to set those plants in there. So ours is right about 70, and we're getting pretty close, and today it's going to warm up, and I think we've picked a great day to start our potatoes. But what you want, again, the sand is just a loose soil mix so that we can get good root growth and get a lot of the potatoes to germinate, but also it will hold moisture for us real well. And the first thing that we do is just place those potatoes firmly down into the sand, and you can line them up side by side and save as much space as you possibly can so you can get them all in there. And you're laying them on the side, and then the sweet potato slips will actually germinate from the potatoes, and they'll germinate all along the potatoes. Now, it may take about 25 slips to feed one person, and that would be enough to store for the year. So a good-sized potato like this can make as many as 24 slips depending upon the size and the quality and how well you take care of it and keep it moist. So you can tell that it doesn't take a lot of slips to get a good production for a family. Now, after you've got them worked in there a little bit, you want to put a little bit of sand on them. But before you do that, a good little thing to practice is to put in some chicken wire. And the reason for this is once we get those slips up and growing, this chicken wire will help hold those potatoes down, and that way when we're pulling the slips, it won't dislodge our potatoes. So a little bit of chicken wire over the top is a good practice. And then we'll cover those up with sand, and you want to cover them up about 2 inches. And once you get them covered, the next thing, of course, is to keep them moist. Now, you may be asking the question, how long will they need to grow to get your slip production? Well, really, you want to start these the last couple of weeks in March. So we've got plenty of time to get our sweet potatoes bedded in and get them growing. But it can take anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks under commercial production. But in a cold frame, it may even take 7 to 8 weeks to get them started. So allow plenty of time, and usually we want to plant around the middle of May to the middle of June. Again, that depends on where you're located in the state of Oklahoma. And once we've got those in there, Again, it's real important to keep it moist, so you'll want to water them in and check the temperature. Once the slips start growing, even around 70 degrees is still good, and we may even need to take the top off of our greenhouse to let it cool off some. But remember, sweet potatoes like hot weather, warm temperatures, so it's real crucial that we keep them nice and warm around 80 degrees. Now, if you don't have a contraption like this with the cold frame, there's still the good method of just rooting one in a glass of water. And of course, you want to match up your sweet potato, choose it just like you would any of the others. You've seen us do this with avocados on the show. Just put 3 toothpicks in, submerge it in the water. The roots will form along the base, and you'll get your slips on the top, and you won't get as many. But they'll vine more, and you'll need to keep those pruned back. And as time goes near the planting time, you'll want to make sure you set these outside so they'll harden off and be prepared for the hot, dry winds ahead. And of course, the other option is, if you don't have any potatoes, go to your garden center and then ask for certified slips so you'll make sure they're disease-free, and just plant some again around the end of May, middle of May, or even the 1st of June.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.